Dana. I am a Midwestern neurodivergent author, and under the name D.L. Pitchford, I publish unapologetically honest books with real characters. Today I want to do a vlog. This is my first vlog, so apologies in advance if it's super awkward. I am awkward. One of my main goals for AuthorTube is accountability, so that means we're doing some writing vlogs. This is a new experience for me. I'm super awkward on camera, so we'll see how well this goes. I really don't know what to expect right now. What I'm going to be working on today is the fourth and final book in my first series. It is a new adult contemporary book about a girl named Billie who goes off to college and reconnects with her distant father. The first book is all about how her relationship with her father has affected her relationship with men in general. And then the second book was kind of the same, but for the mom, how her relationship with her mother affected her relationship with other girls. And then the third book veered more toward romantic interest. There was finally a happy ending in the romantic subplot. So in this fourth book, you get more of a look at her continuing relationship with her boyfriend, Xander, and kind of their plans for the future. Each book takes place in a different school year. So the first book was her freshman year of college, and then the second book was sophomore, and so on. This fourth book focuses a lot on Billie and Xander figuring out what they're doing in the future, and it also has a lot to do with Billie's relationship with her younger sister, Imogene. This series is the first thing that I published. I published book 1 in 2017 and books 2 and 3 in 2018. This book has been most of the way done since early 2019. Starting around 2019, I experienced a lot of burnout, and I could not write. I couldn't really write on any of these projects for 5 years. It has been more than that time now. I've been ready to work on these projects for at least a year, probably closer to a year and a half, but there have been so many other things going on. Over the past 6 months, I have been working toward getting ready to publish this book. I had to reread the whole series, which was a bizarre experience going back to them after it had been, 7 years or something like that since I had worked on any of these books. So after I reread the books I've already published, I then reread what I have written of this book. So this is my manuscript. It has all of the stuff that I wrote along with the parts that I didn't get to. So the final sections here are just summaries of what's supposed to be going on there. So I went through all of that, and I made a bunch of notes, and I realized that I wanted to completely change how the main plot point played out. A main part of this book is that Billie and Xander reconnect with Xander's estranged parents. After Billie's experiences in the first 2 books, she pushes him in the direction of not necessarily reconnecting with his parents, but resolving whatever issues are there. So that is one of the major plot points. The other one is kind of a callback to the first book. I don't necessarily want to spoil it for people who have not read it, which is most people. But basically, at the end of the first book, something happens and Billie makes a choice. And there is a callback to that situation here, and how that carries out throughout the novel. I had planned for it to be one way, but as I reread everything and went through my notes, it didn't feel right. So I actually decided to change that completely. It's going to play out in a completely different way, and this also changes the structure of my story. What I had as the first major plot point at the end of Act 1 and what I had as the midpoint kind of got switched, and I have to completely change how I'm addressing these scenes, because what was supposed to happen in those scenes will be happening at different points, but those scenes will still exist. At one point, they go to visit Xander's family over break. It was initially going to be over Thanksgiving break, and it was the first plot point. That interaction needed to be the midpoint. So instead of going to visit his family for Thanksgiving, they're staying at the college and they're spending Thanksgiving with Billy's dad, and then they're going to go travel to visit Xander's family for Christmas break, which means they'll be there longer, so there's more time for the uncomfortable interactions that I need and more time for character development. This will be so much better, but it also means that my Act 1 is a lot shorter than it was before, and I'm sure I will flesh that out after I finish revamping this draft. So that meant that I needed to completely break apart all of the sections. I had to figure out what went where and completely restructure things. This also means that the chapters that I had set up don't work anymore. Where I'm at, I have a lot of stuff written. I have 70. That's a cat. Hey, little bastard. Yeah. Are you my little bastard? Come here. Come here, shithead. Come here. No, you're just gonna nuzzle my desk. Okay. So, I've completely forgotten where I was. I have 75,000 words written, but I have to go through all of them and implement a bunch of changes. I already went through my Scrivener file and made a bunch of notes. Basically what I have to do is piece together the sections that I made changes to, fit them into the rest of it. Some scenes need rewritten, but most of them are fine or will only require small alterations. So that does make it hard to really measure what I'm doing, because technically what I'm doing right now is editing. I need to edit this draft and then finish it. So I have 75,000 words. I'm estimating this to be around 100,000, so I'm 3/4 of the way there, but there's so much editing I need to do. I am so out of practice with writing regularly that it's kind of a relief that what I need to do on this is editing, but that also makes it harder. I don't really know the best way to dive into this project, but I know I really need to finish it, and I need to do that before I can move on to other projects. This is Gambit. So, what are my goals for today? Because we're doing this writing vlog for today. It is 10:41 right now. I have until around 2 o'clock, because at that point I have to get ready to go pick up my kids from school. My husband normally does that, so normally I can work a little later, but it is Valentine's Day and his job is busier on Valentine's Day and he's working hours he doesn't normally work. So I will be picking them up. That means I have about 3 hours to do some actual work on this. I don't know how this will go. I don't know if I'll be able to last 3 hours. 3 hours might be overwhelming since I'm so out of practice. But I also just need to sit down and do it. And I have procrastinated on this enough. One of the main reasons I wanted to do AuthorTube was to have that sort of outside accountability. So because I'm mostly editing, I don't know exactly what sort of goal would be best. I think at this point I want a word count goal purely to see how close I can get to that, but I'm not sure what sort of goal to set. My initial thought was 2K, but that could also be way too high. I don't know, but where I'm at, I know I do need to be writing. I am completely rewriting a chapter. I am at the Thanksgiving part, so Billy and Xander and their friend Jimmy are having Thanksgiving dinner with Billy's dad. They came early so that Billy can help cook. Her and her dad cook together a lot. It is one of the main ways in which they bond. So they're preparing Thanksgiving dinner for this small group, but while they're getting things prepared, there is a sudden visitor. The chapter I finished last had this visitor arriving, but this chapter that I'm working on now, that is, I just have an outline for it because everything I had written for Thanksgiving got moved to the midpoint. And what I had here, what remained, isn't a full scene. So I have to completely redo this scene. So my plan is to aim for 2,000 words. I'm going to reread the previous chapter and my short outline for what this new chapter is supposed to be. And then I guess I'm just going to play some music. I have a playlist that I put together for this project, so I will listen to my playlist and dive into writing. I took a little break, I grabbed a snack, and now I'm ready to dive back in. I wrote 280 words earlier. I didn't measure exactly how much time I spent writing, but I got a decent amount done. The first mini scene got written, and now everyone is actually sitting down to dinner now. I do already have a decent amount of the next part written. I have about 800 words of what's going to happen during this dinner, but all of those words need rewritten. So, technically, I've written more than 280 words. I do not think I will reach my 2,000 word goal in the amount of time that I have. But, genuinely, I would just like to finish this chapter and have the chapter be good. It's not going to be great by any means, but I would be happy with good. Okay, I'm struggling a little bit because where I'm at, I need to get from the start of dinner to where the argument begins. That's a lot of space to fill. I don't want it to be immediately. We need to slowly build up the tension, but I'm not really sure how to do that. I don't know what conversation needs to happen here. They're talking about classes in college, and that needs to culminate in Imogen not going back to school, or Imogen revealing that she's not going back to school. But that can't happen right away. Okay, part of the problem is the connection between, hey, how are your classes going, to I'm not going back to school next semester. There's an obvious connection there. So I'm struggling not to just dive right into that, but I need other things to happen first, and I'm not sure what to put in there. It's fine for the start of that conversation to be here and then to weave through different aspects of the overall conversation to get to the reveal, but that means I don't have a logical path to follow because I need to fill in the empty spots with I don't know what. So that's what I'm struggling with right now. And I think this is what I was really struggling with before, too. I know I want to spread this out more. And I might just not have all of the information that I need to do that at this point, which isn't the end of the world. I'm an underwriter. I flesh things out more in following drafts, and this one will be especially messy because of how I've had to Frankenstein the different parts together. And maybe the right thing to do is just to skip all of the awkward conversation of not knowing what they should be talking about and go right to the argument. Maybe that would be the best thing to do. I don't know yet. I'm going to work on it a little more, and if I keep struggling with what to add in, then I will probably just skip right to the fight. And if I think of things to go in, then awesome. If not, that's not the end of the world. Okay, I just got to the end of the scene. I have only written about 1,000 words that are new, but this scene is about 2,000 words. So I have written 1,000 and edited 1,000 more. So that's pretty good progress. I'm pretty happy with that. However, I just realized that there is something else really important that's supposed to happen in this scene, and I forgot to add it. So I actually have to go back in and add in a phone call. But yeah, I am very close to having this chapter as finished as it will be for now. Okay, so I just added about 400 more words. So that means I have written almost 1,400 words today, new words, and I've finished that chapter. It's now a total of 2,251 words, and it is 1:23, so I have a little less than an hour, or about exactly an hour, before I need to leave. So that gives me a little time to finish up here and figure out what part of this I'm working on next. Okay, at the end of this, after the argument, Billie and Xander go for a drive. So chapter 9 will be continuation of the plot point, because the Thanksgiving dinner and the argument there is a major part of it, but this next chapter is probably one of the most important chapters in the book. It's time for Billie and Xander to have a really important conversation that they've been needing to have since the start of the book. And Billie has been trying to have this conversation with Xander for a while, and she has failed. It's not that she doesn't want to have the conversation, she's not really sure how to have the conversation. So there are two really important things that they need to discuss during this. And now that that argument with Imogene has happened, then they're in a position where they need to have this conversation. This can't be postponed anymore. She has stuff she needs to tell him, Xander has stuff he needs to tell her, and they need to actually be on the same page for the first time in this book. They've had some communication issues since the beginning of the book, and it's time for us to fix those, because this is not a problem that we want them to have forever. This is not a long-term issue. They need to resolve these problems for their relationship to work. The goal of the series is for the relationship to work. Like, that's a big part of it. Their relationship is kind of the core of the series. And it took them almost 3 books to actually get in this relationship. I want them to have a good, healthy relationship during this final book. I don't want it to be like they're arguing and they're fighting and not communicating and not getting along well and they're incompatible. I really need this book to show how well they work together when they actually work together. Like, they'll argue, they'll fight, they'll have communication issues. That's normal. That is a normal part of relationships. But it can't be the main part of the relationships. They have to be able to get through it and move forward. It needs to be a small blip in the grand scheme of things. So I just need to make sure that the ratio of issues that they have is small compared to the amount of, like, healthy, wholesome relationship content. So it is finally time for them to get on the same page, and I'm really excited to write that scene. I don't have time right now, and I'm kind of sad about that, but hopefully I'll be able to work on it again soon. And frankly, I'm really relieved that this went so well, because I was worried I was going to have a breakdown, because it's been so long since I've really sat down to write, since I've devoted this much time to this project, and I'm worried that it's going to be really difficult for me to finish. This was difficult, but not as difficult as I was expecting it to be. So I feel like I made a lot of progress. We are officially over 75,000 words now. I was a little under before this. 75,447 words total. And I'm expecting this to be at least 100,000, probably more. But it is really hard to tell because of how much I had to rearrange things. I will say, next time I need to figure out what exactly is going to happen in the next few chapters. But for the most part, I think this is in a good place. The fact that I'm actually looking forward to working on this project, it's really good. That has not always been the case. That hasn't really been the case since 2019. So the fact that I am making progress on this and I'm enjoying making progress on this is wonderful. I don't know what else to say. It's a relief. I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to make much progress and that what I did would be bad. I'm not saying what I wrote here today was really good. It definitely was not. But that's what revision is for. And I know I'm technically doing revision right now, which is why, that makes it feel really weird that I'm revising and then the next thing I'm going to do is revise. But that's just what happens when you have to completely restructure your story. Okay, so I have to finish up this and make a few notes, and then I have to go pick up my kids from school. So I will see you guys later.